Hello and welcome to Module 15. Module 15 was mainly about DevOps, and I will start with the first section. DevOps, the first thing was to find out more about the DevOps certifications that one can get, and after reading through, find out which ones hold the students' fancy and what they would like to work on. After looking through all of the 11 suggested courses, I came up with three. Two of them were beginners' journeys, and one was more of an advanced course that will help me down the lane in my career. First is the DevOps culture and mindset. I thought that I found out that this course provides a good foundation to understand, the why and how behind DevOps transformation, why companies should use DevOps, what encouraged the the transition into DevOps from other ways of learning. It also had some things about lean methodology and systems thinking, which I've done before. And I thought that because we already learn technical skills, it would be a good idea for me to figure out not only what works, but why it works and how to deploy from an idea to a real world environment. And I thought that would be important. Eventually, I will be a developer who not only builds things, but also understands basically how it affects operations and how it contributes to the whole organization. Secondly, was the getting started with DevOps on AWS. Basically, it's also a foundational course because at this point I don't know anything about DevOps. So the foundational course that introduces all the philosophies, tools, practices for DevOps, including code commit, code build, and these are things I did and I learned. And it gave me an idea of exactly what DevOps is, how the tools work with each other, what are the best practices for DevOps. And I really now understand, how to build applications that are ready to be deployed in the cloud and also are able to run efficiently. The third certification was more of a professional certification, which is done by people who have been in the industry longer. From what I read, it's 3 years or so, and who have experience working on Google Cloud. That is the Google Cloud DevOps Engineering Professional Certificate. While this I might not do right now, it is a certificate that I think I would want to do in future, so that I can be able to know how to work with Google Cloud. And from what I learned, it works a lot with CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous deployment. And I will learn how to do monitoring and logging and tracing through the cloud, lifecycle management of programs in the cloud and all of that. It is a good bridge between development and operations, so it is good with somebody who has a bit of a technical background to increase their depth and make them more versatile. Next, I also did some research into AWS CLI and the management console. Both of them enable a user to actually use and work with the AWS tools, all the code builds and the code commits. The difference between AWS CLI and console is that the CLI is terminal based, where you deploy the terminal on your local laptop and you can work on the different tools from it. Whereas the management console is a web-based app, which is more has more graphics, is more graphic friendly, is more user friendly. It has all these graphs, it has all these buttons, and it has visually it presents things better as opposed to the CLI, which is specifically a terminal. Next, I did the lighthouse tests to check the performance of my website against, as well as to check the performance of an external website, to check for accessibility, to check how it performs, SEO, best practices, and general performance. The website that I used was the code blogs in module 9 and 10, and the external website that I used was the American Airlines website. I did not have a process for choosing American Airlines. I just went on Google, I typed A, and the first website that showed up was the American Airlines website. Also, I might be a bit biased because this is my field, travel is my field. So, of course, the first A that I related to was an airline, and I latched onto it very fast. I also have previous experience working in an airline. So, just a brief, we'll now open the login page for code blocks, and this is what the performance looked like. 71 in terms of general performance, accessibility 90, best practices were at 100%, and I was very happy about that, and SEO at 83. The main issues in the performance were that the first contentful of paint and the largest contentful of paint load slowly. Basically, the first pictures that show up on the page, and for my login page, I need to show this. I will show the login page. Basically, what I found out is the loading of the picture that you see here in the login page takes a little slow, over 2 seconds on desktop, which apparently I learned that is also a bit slow. So maybe I need to compress this picture and make sure that find a way. If I compress it, then it will load faster. So that was the biggest issue. Also, there was a lot of excess and unused JavaScript and CSS. I also learned that, which prevented the page from loading fast while it was it was running through the code. Also, I learned that for there's back and forth cache issues that are showing up, and they should also be cleaned up and for them to be optimized, as especially during it meant that there were scripts which are not loading when you go back and forth. So there needs to be a bit of cleanup therein to make the page perform better, and that is the login page. So aside from that, for accessibility, it was more to do with contrast between the background and the foreground colors. And SEO, which I noticed for both the login and the homepage, is the fact that web crawlers are not able to get this page, which I don't think for now is a problem because it's not a publicly available page. Now, going into the report from the code blog homepage, performance was 71, accessibility 94, best practices 96, SEO 83. It also had the same issues with the JavaScript and CSS, that there were a lot of unused resources, and so it was affecting the performance. And also that some text needed to be compressed, and I will show you what the homepage looks like. That there was some text compressions that needed to be done, and more importantly, the layout shifts, the way it shifts from on the left the profile, to the right all the posts. That some layout shifts were not consistent and needed to be looked at. The SEO was also just the same, that it's not the web crawlers were not able to get the page, which again is not an issue here. Lastly, for the lighthouse, I carried out the analysis, just a minute, for the American Airlines website. So I will just open this in File Explorer so that we can be able to access American Airlines login. The login for American Airlines that I chose was the member login. It's called the AA Advantage login page. So for the login page, did the same performance analysis. Basically, for the while the code blocks page had strong accessibility and best practices performance, again, to repeat, the biggest issues were the large contentful paint and the oversized images and unused JSS. In contrast, when we look at the American Airlines page, it performed lower on SEO. It performed lower on performance and best practices, but had very strong performance on SEO, because I assume because it's it's a company that's out there and working and wants to encourage people to book online. It's very visible online. It had very many request chains, just layered. By the time the system is reading and gets to the last chain, it takes very many branches to get to the chain. It has very many tasks from the main thread. So the recommendation was, to recreate the architecture so that there's not very many very many processes coming from one thread, just to rethink about the structure of the architecture. As well, American Airlines had a lot of security, and some of its breaks were coming in from using third parties linkages. I'm assuming things like Expedia and all of that, just linking to their website. There were a lot of third-party cookie usages, and so that might lead a website to break. For the homepage for American Airlines, in comparison to the CodeBlog's homepage, their performance was also lower. Best practices were lower, but accessibility and SEO were higher. It also is more complex than the CodeBlog's page. This page handles a lot. It handles the booking, destination, and where people are going. It handles check-in. It handles checking flight status. It's a very heavy and busy page. It handles memberships, all of that. It's a very busy page. So they also have the issue with the long request chains, and they have issues with duplicated modules and layout instability. Also, this page also had issues with large images that were not very optimized. Maybe they needed to be compressed. Likewise, it also had issues with third parties, plugins, and they also, of course, performed very well with SEO, as opposed to the CodeBlog's page, for which the biggest issues performance-wise were the pictures and how heavy the pictures were. CodeBlog's page did not have a lot of issues that the American Airlines page has. But of course, it has a simpler layout. It didn't have very many tasks on the homepage, like the American Airlines homepage does. The next thing I did was carry out Selenium tests on CodeBlog's page. The Selenium tests that were supposed to be done, I'll go back to my README, were Number 1, navigation. Number 2, filling out forms. Number 3, form validation. Number 4, responsiveness. And number 5, automation of repeat tasks. To do that, I performed Selenium tests to check the performance of the CodeBlog site, and I did this on Firefox because the extension does not work very well in Chrome. The extension that is actually does not exist in Chrome. So when we open an existing project from here, that was not the right way to open it. When you open the existing project here, we can see all of the tests are there. So starting with the navigation test, I will reduce the execution speed because I noticed it was running very fast. Starting with the navigation test, I press the arrow there to run the test. The navigation tests, basically, I try to navigate through different pages. This is the login page that it is navigating through right now. And as you can see, the login is successful. Then it went to the home page, the blogs page, and the network page. I will reduce the speed again slightly. So that just buzzed through it. Next was the test for the registration form. You will notice that it starts, that every test starts on that page. I did that intentionally. So for the registration form, what I did was just fill out the form and create a new user and see whether it was going to be able to take in the form, validate the form just fine. And it actually did that. The form was completed and it is sent to the back and it was validated just fine. The third one was also about filling in, and the third test was about filling in forms, and the form that I chose to fill in this time was the create post one. So after login, we go to the home page and use this person to create a post, and a post was created and sent, and it said post created successfully, and there was no issue there. The fourth test that I ran, reduce that slightly again, was to test also the form validation, because the login has a form validation and it has to go to the backend, make sure the credentials are correct before it allows someone to log in. Once more, we start by logging out the current user and then entering the login information. If it's correct, it logs in. Then I also tried to make sure that I enter wrong login information, wrong password, and wrong email. As you can see, it failed. It redirected to the registration, and the tests run when successfully when the correct logins are entered and the wrong logins are entered. The fourth test was for mobile responsiveness, basically going from desktop to mobile and back to desktop to see how again the page performs. So here it has gone to desktop. We can see at the bottom there's the desktop, the menu is at the bottom for the mobile site, and then when it goes back to desktop, the navigation bar is on the side. The last three tests were about carrying out repetitive tests. What I chose to do is to log in, like posts, log out, log in again, create a post, log out. The third time I logged in, liked somebody else's post, and logged out. So when you look at the repetitive tests, it also did that successfully. So this is the second login to go and went to all the logs, all the posts, and liked a post. The third one was to go in and create a post and again log out. So all three tests eventually were able to perform well, meaning there was from a user experience, since we are testing if this would be a UAT, from the user experience, things work successfully. I will now stop that. Lastly, the last thing I did was, as a bonus, I took 4 courses because I was interested in doing CLI and AWS CLI. And so for CLI, I did 2 courses, basics and getting started, basically to understand the terminal-based tool for managing AWS resources. So I learned how to use, and I saw how effective it is to manage all the operations and all the tools from a terminal based point of view. Next, I did getting started with DevOps on AWS. I learned all the tools, all the mindset, all the practices and the philosophies behind it, and why DevOps is actually changing how we do things and how we work on the cloud and everything that you can do within the DevOps pipeline, and also learned about continuous integration and continuous delivery and how to manage the pipeline when you're doing, where you're developing a product for release. Lastly, I also learned about testing practices using the AWS DevOps tools. Basically, I learned about how to automate the testing and security checks before deploying programs to users. So I learned how to do CI/CD, work within the pipeline, the various tools to use like manual versus Lambda testing and overrides. And I learned how to also, use code build, which integrates with Git as well, and how to handle errors and how to check deployment in real time, and also how to make decisions about how to deploy a program to users. So the AWS tools were very interesting. The AWS courses were very interesting, and I would like to continue to experience that and take more certifications in that. Thank you.